Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to Rams Talk, Cardinals versus Rams Christmas edition. I got the fire going. It's super cozy for everyone. I hope everyone got what they wanted from Santa. Santa brought me a fantasy football championship loss by 0.14 points. So Santa, thanks a lot for that. LaShawn McCoy, you're dead to me. Separate note. I picked up C.J. Anderson, didn't play him. Dropped Baltimore defense in favor of Indy. Yeah, kind of a tough one there. But anyways, hope that you can watch this today when you're in a food coma, you're just sitting down and you're chilling, you finally have a break, you've opened all your presents. The Rams gave us a gift a couple days early with their victory over the Cardinals. In fact, they own the Cardinals in the Sean McVay era. They've outscored them 130-25 in 4 games. It's crazy. It's crazy. Kind of feel bad for the Cardinals in a way, more so for Larry Fitzgerald, class act. Also, the Larry Fitzgerald pass to David Johnson screwed me because the guy had David Johnson. So there's like all this weird stuff happening. But anyways, I got to focus. Rams versus Cardinals. I guess really I'd like to talk about 3 players today in this game because we know the Rams just totally dominated the Cardinals. But the 3 players I'm going to start with C.J. Anderson. C.J. Anderson off the streets, off the couch, comes in, rushes for 160-something yards with over 8 yards per carry. I mean, that's just insane. And the Rams as a team rushed for 269 yards on 41 carries for a 6.6 yards per carry average. That's like Seattle Seahawks numbers. That's like teams who actually just running the ball is their identity and what they do. That's the kind of numbers that they put up right there. And that's crazy. So big credit also to the offensive line. They balled out. I mean, coming off of questionable performances against Philly and the Bears, they really stepped up. Granted, Arizona's a subpar and inferior opponent, but they really stepped up and paved the way for C.J. Anderson to do what he did. He's a physical downhill runner. I love it. I always thought he was good. I think he was cut from the Panthers as like kind of a goodwill gesture because he wasn't getting the carries that he thought he'd get before the beginning of the year. It was all going to McCaffrey. So they kind of did him a solid and said, hey, we'll release you so you can latch on to another team and get some carries. And the Raiders claimed him but then dropped him again. So I'm so thankful that he was available for the Rams to pick up. I mean, that is a great addition, like off the streets. He's a humble guy, and I kind of picture, ideally, guy in an apartment just doing nothing here, but I picture that them using him and Gurley kind of like how the Saints views Kamara and Ingram. Granted, Gurley is more physical than Kamara is, but C.J. Anderson and Ingram are very similar in their physical style. And I think it would be really interesting to see Gurley lined up in the flats and slots and use him as a receiver and C.J. Anderson as a running back. They used more 12 personnel with 2 tight ends in this game, and I think that was really because they were dedicating to the run. So very interesting game to see how they used C.J. Anderson, but once again, the offensive line really stepped up and did well. Another player I want to talk about is Robert Woods. Robert Woods is a top-level receiver in this league. It's time that he gets his dues. Now let's go back to the evolution and start at the beginning. So he was at USC, and I followed him. I watched him because I'm in LA, and that was, I think, the Lane Kiffin years. And his second year at USC, he put up almost 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. Going into his third year at USC, he was projected as one of the best top receivers in football, in all of college football. But he had kind of a down year because they started giving the ball more to Marquise Lee. It was when Marquise Lee emerged. He still put up like 700-800 yards, had a decent amount of touchdowns, but it wasn't like his second year. And so his draft stock slipped a bit, and he didn't have that like top end like 4.3, 4.4 speed. He ran a 4.51 at the combine, slipped to the second round, 41st pick though. That's still a very high pick, and I guess maybe his name isn't flashy, or he just went to Buffalo and people forgot about him. But I mean that was the year that the Rams traded up to draft Tavon Austin, traded with the Bills on that pick, and then I want to say DeAndre Hopkins was picked in the first round. Justin Hunter out of Tennessee was picked in the second round. There was another guy, so I want to say he was like the fourth or fifth receiver taken in that draft, the 2013 draft. And Keenan Allen was taken later. So you could say that Keenan Allen, Robert Woods, and DeAndre Hopkins are the class of that draft for receivers. And so he was in Buffalo. Doug Marrone was the coach. He was paired with Stevie Johnson. Had an okay rookie year. Had a couple okay seasons. Rex Ryan was in there. He had a battle with Percy Harvin for the second receiver spot. On the side of opposite side of Sammy Watkins. Never really broke free. Each year he missed a couple of games here, a couple of games there with injuries. So he had Tyrod Taylor, he had E.J. Manuel throwing to him, and it was also a run-first team, so he was asked to do a lot of blocking, which is why he's good at blocking. Anyway, comes to the Rams, has like 700 or 800 yards last year. But then this year, he's at about 1,200 yards. He has 400 yards more than he did last year. He has 6 touchdowns, and he's the 4th player in NFL history to have 14 consecutive games of 60 or more yards. The other 3 players that do that are Antonio Brown, Andre Johnson, and Marvin Harrison. So he's in great company. And I guess we can all say that Robert Woods is a legitimate top-tier NFL wide receiver. And he's only 26. Crazy, I know. I feel like he's been around forever. And he's got such a team-friendly contract. 3 more years at between $5 and $8 million per year, which is about half of what Brandon Cooks is making. So the Rams really scored. Really happy for Robert Woods balling out and for Sean McVay untapping that potential that he's had his whole life. Now, and then just kind of going off of that, offensively, what I feel the Rams did a great job. Like I said, inferior opponent, but they really used everything in their arsenal, and they did a lot of running, like 41 attempts, because there's a lot of jet sweeps, a lot of C.J. Anderson, a lot of John Kelly when the game was out of control. So I think they were up by a lot, and they were able to run the ball. And so, I mean, I felt Goff did great. The pass to Woods for the touchdown was just a great bullet pinpoint throw. And so, offense was great, but hard to tell against Arizona. On the flip side, the defense, Aaron Donald, what can you say about AD? 19 and a half sacks. That's the most from an interior lineman in NFL history. That's the most of any Rams player in Rams history. And he is tied for second most multi-sack games in a season. He has 7. And if he has 2 sacks against the 49ers, which is entirely possible, he had 4 early in the season, then he will be tied for first. And just to think, he's had, I think, at least 5 games without a sack, the first 2, Arizona and Oakland, and then he had Philly, New Orleans, and Chicago, no sacks. So if he had like 1 or 2 sacks within those 5 games, especially the first 2, then we'd be really looking at him breaking Michael Strahan's single season record. He has to get 4. He did it last time. I feel like it's unlikely. I don't think it's going to happen. But he's going all in. I feel like the other guys on the line are going to be inspired to really do their share. And Ndamukong Suh had a good game. Dante Fowler had a good game. They showed up. The Cardinals' offensive line is terrible, so grain of salt right there. One thing that's interesting about the Rams is I always think about the Rams as the team with all the trick plays, right? But I feel like every team is doing the trick plays to the Rams now. Start with the Lions with that touchdown to offensive lineman. Then the Bears, offensive lineman touchdown. And the Lions were also doing all kinds of things, onside kicks, receiver throw or running back throwing it to the receiver. And then this past game, Fitzgerald throwing to David Johnson. Then they did the fake kick. And it's just, I feel like other teams, especially desperate teams, are doing this, but the Rams really need to be aware for teams doing to them what they've done to other teams. So it's just the trick plays. Pay attention to the eligible receivers and don't look in the backfield when Larry Fitzgerald has the ball. So interesting note right there. But the Rams just annihilated Arizona. I felt bad for them. They beat them in every phase of the game. Time of possession was, let's say, 37 to 23 minutes. That's crazy. The Cardinals just aren't a good team. I honestly was feeling bad for Josh Rosen. He was getting annihilated back there. The Rams are great on third down. They were 6 of 9 on third downs. That's what you want to see, seeing those conversions. And that's, I think these are the little things, the little tweaks that they're making. Hopefully they can do that against the 49ers. And talking about the 49ers, I hate the 49ers. Even on Christmas, I hate the 49ers. Maybe like twice as much. But they played the Bears tough this past week, and they played the Seahawks. They beat the Seahawks 2 weeks ago. So even though the 49ers suck, even though Nick Mullins sucks, that everyone sucks on that team, I wouldn't be surprised if they put up a good fight against the Rams, because it's a rival, and I just don't take anything for granted. And I really don't want to look past the 49ers, even though they're terrible. So I want to keep that in mind. And I really, the LaMarcus Joyner, he twisted an ankle at the end of that game, and like to see how he is. Aqib Talib has really stabilized the secondary and the defense as a whole. So, yeah, this is the last tune-up, and if Todd Gurley plays, I'd like to see it sparingly and get C.J. Anderson a little more workload. And, yeah, I mean, this game is the Arizona game was fun to watch. It's fun to watch a Rams game. It hasn't been fun to watch a Rams game since the Kansas City game. But anyways, I'm running over about 11 minutes here. I want to keep it short and sweet because you got other things to do today. So I'm really glad you spent your time watching Rams talk. Hope you all had a Merry Christmas, and subscribe if you want to, whatever. Just have a good day, have a good time with your family, and as always, go Rams.